Hello BookTube, hello YarnTube, hello YouTube, hello you, and welcome to day 13 of Vlogember. So it is Monday morning here, and it's not been the best Monday morning. It's not been a bad Monday morning, it's just not been the best. Started off with, I'm not sure how well my boy is. So he's 9 years old, and I'm wondering whether he's got a water infection. So I'm also feeling like a bad mummy because I took him to school and then spoke to the doctor, and the doctor went, "Oh, you've taken him to school, he should come and see me." So he's actually in the lounge at the moment, and we're going to go off to the doctor's in about 20 minutes time, which reminds me I must get him to have some water because he might have to produce. So he's not feeling, he's seeming really great, but he's obviously uncomfortable, so we need to get that checked out and sorted out. And then there's things like, there was kitty litter mishaps this morning, and yeah, just getting everything sorted out on a Monday morning. It's been less than wonderful, although it is a stunningly beautiful day today. We have got a clear blue sky, which I'm sat looking at, and we've got sunshine and that kind of stuff. So at least the weather's doing its best, and it was really crisp this morning, which was lovely. So I'm going to tell you, while I have my cup of tea, before I take... Oh, much needed. It's 20 to 11, and it's my second cup of tea, which is far too late for me. I'm going to tell you about the books that I have finished in this month. So it is a little bookish update for you. So I have finished 3 books so far. So 2 are non-fiction and 1 is fiction. So probably my next book, which I'll pick up today at some point, will be a fiction title, because I thought that's what I will do, rather than force myself to read all non-fiction unless I really, just be drawn. I thought, well, no, I'm going to read a fiction. So I'm going to read fiction next. So the first book I finished this month was Harlot by Stephanie Pearl McPhee, and it is The Secret Life of a Knitter. It is short stories, extracts, letters, articles, blogs, whatever you want to call them. She's a Canadian lady. She's obviously a highly experienced knitter, way more than I am. But it was really good. It was really good. It is funny. It is laugh out loud funny. She has a really good turn of phrase. There are some poignant moments. There's one story about her friend of hers who was a prolific knitter and has got arthritis and has to give away all her wool, and it was really quite heartbreaking, actually. So it was a real mixture of things. The thing I would say is I found the tone too similar. Although there was some peaks and troughs and what have you, I think I tried to read it too quickly. Or I wonder whether these books are just not my kind of thing. I do like them, and I think it was nice every so often to pick up and read it. But it was quite similar, and by the end of it, I was like, yeah, I've had enough, kind of thing. So I'd be interested to see what her other books like, whether she actually writes a complete book that's not in this style. I probably would be more interested in it. Or to read her blogs or that kind of thing, or to see her live or something like that. I think she'd be brilliant. So, but I would recommend it for those yarnies out there that want a book that you could dip into, and that there are some really funny things. And it does remind us that we all have mistakes, and we all... don't knit perfectly all the time or craft perfectly all the time. So there we go. So that's Yarn Harlot. The second book I finished, which I actually finished on the same day because I was kind of reading them concurrently, was The Falconer by Elizabeth May. Debutante heiress murderer. So it is a paranormal tale set in Edinburgh, and she is battling wicked fae by night, and by day she is a debutante, and she's being forced to go round and live the constrained life of a young heiress, whereas she really is wanting to go out and battle the fae. And I had really mixed feelings about this. I could see the idea of the women's empowerment and how strong she was, and the tension between her and the potential love interest, and it's the first of a trilogy, and I could see where that was going. And there were some really good ideas about what the Fae are like and how that develops. I just found it too derivative. I have read other books, and they've been done better. And the tension between her and the Fae, that's the love interest, it wasn't strong enough for me. I think it all boiled down to, I didn't really like the main character. I found her quite two-dimensional. She was whiny and feisty in equal measures, and her feistiness wasn't believable and her whining was. But she didn't have enough about her for me to be interested in her, I would say, which I feel quite bad, actually. I'm also slightly concerned about our constant portrayal of what it is to be strong. Is you have to be able to battle somebody, and you have to be training and kicking people and stuff. We do seem to be going through a thing about young women. To have a strong female character means that she has to be able to kick butt on a regular basis, and I don't always think that. When I think about the warrior women in my life, I don't think any of them have ever grappled somebody to the ground or anything like that, but they are strong warrior women, and I wonder whether we are going down a road which will cripple us in the long run. But anyway, that's a different discussion for another time, and I just have that in my head. So that was that. So the Falconer. So I probably wouldn't recommend it. If you find it cheaply and you fancy having a little read, then no problem. But it wouldn't be one where I say you have to go out. I do think Elizabeth May can write. I do think that. I mean, I really do think that. But it wasn't for me. And then the last book I have read, and these two took me ages to read. These two took me ages. So I was so pleased when I picked this up, and I really felt like I wanted to read, and I wanted to sit and concentrate on it. Was a Riverine by Angela Palm, and it is a memoir from anywhere but here. So Angela grew up in rural Indiana, and poor. She classed herself as poor, and kind of disadvantaged poor as well. But of course she grew up not knowing the difference, although she was aware of the school that she went to. You know, that the other people, they didn't need to have cast off, so they didn't need to get clothes that were kind of from Goodwill and were second hand, so they were always a season behind, or they were never fashionable at the time, and also the kind of the how she grew up with a level of violence and disharmony and worry and fear, and she looks a little bit at her family, how that might have caused it, and how it affected her as she's growing up. And also she had a real connection with the boy next door, and she could see his bedroom from her bedroom, and it was like a talisman, a safety net for her. And then when she was kind of 15, he was 19, he got sentenced, he committed murder, and was sent away with no hope of parole. And so it does become a little look into the justice system and how the disadvantaged poor are so disadvantaged. So it was fascinating. She's a very lyrical writer, a very poetic writer. I found it was a book of two halves for me. I found the first half powerful, fascinating, dismaying, eye-opening. I thought that was fascinating. And that's her upbringing up to about the age of 15, and maybe a bit longer, but very much where she came from. And then the second half is her older, as she's older, and what happens to her and stuff like that. And I felt it lost its power at that point. I think she was worried about how, I could understand it, but I think she was worried about how much she was going to say because of course there are people that are still in her life, and I think she was worried about how much she would give, and also too much self-analysis perhaps. And I think she talks about how a style of memoir and is that you go away on tangents all the time, and then the tangents come back. And I felt as though the reason that she explained that to us was because that was what she was trying to do, but she wasn't, for me, bringing it back enough. There was a lot of times I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, or why you're talking about this. And it felt a little bit self-absorbed. I don't feel that she knew what the reader... I don't feel that there was an understanding of what an outside eye would require. It was too focused on the lyrical and exploration of ideas, and didn't bring it back for us, because there were bits I just had no idea what she was talking about. No, I was like, no idea what you're talking about, Angela. This to me is you've gone off on too many tangents, and I don't see, when you then bring it back, it's loose, the connection, to say the least, and I think it was self-indulgent is what I felt. But the first half of the book I thought was phenomenally powerful, and even then I could have done with more, because there wasn't some explanations, and I can understand these are all, a lot of the people that she's talking about are still living, they're still in her life, they're still family members, and I can understand that she doesn't want to delve into it, but there's some stuff you could think, are you saying what I think you're saying? But then it was a memoir, not an autobiography, so I don't know. So at times, I think the first half I really enjoyed, and I thought at one point this is going to be, a top book of this year, but it really lost impact about halfway through, and I feel as though it would have been better if it had been quite heavily edited towards the end, and I feel as though they could have had a critical eye, far more critical eye on it, to almost rein it in. But then I wonder whether that's her style, and actually if you read her articles, whether you say that's her style anyway. But there we go, that's what I've read. So it was quite a fascinating book. So I kind of launched, and I did read it very quickly. I think I read it over the weekend quite happily, and yeah, so I was still really glad I read it. And it was eye-opening. It really was eye-opening, in a good way. So yeah. Sometimes I think it's quite hard when you read memoirs, isn't it, to try and take away from your own story. Kind of, we read things that move us, and sometimes it's where you are at the time. So the stuff about family was quite, talking about her parents and what have you, that was quite something for me, having lost my mum this year. And so yeah, so it was interesting. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. So yeah, anyway, there we go. 3 books so far this month. Quite different books. And I'm glad I read them, and I don't know what I'm going to read next. I've got a lovely selection of books which I shall run my fingers over and see what I feel like picking up today. At some point I shall pick up something. And so there we go, my lovely people. I'm going to leave you here today because I don't know what the rest of the day is going to look like for me, and we'll see what happens. I'm hoping wherever you are, you are having a lovely day, and I look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow.